And the signal there is from Michael Tonge.
And it's come to Michael Tonge again. Oh yes! He's done it again! And Sheffield United have turned it around!
Hello again and welcome to the Sheffield United official podcast, one of our own, where we speak to Blades players past and present to discuss their time here at Bramall Lane. Today's guest spent 8 incredible years here, making over 300 appearances for the club, and was part of one of the most memorable seasons in the club's recent history. More on that to come, but let's say hello to none other than Michael Tonge. Welcome along. Did I get all the figures right there?
Pretty much, yeah.
Good to see you. How's it feel coming back here first?
Well, it's been not the first time I've been back, but every time I do come back, there's always sort of a sense of nostalgia about it. It's one of those feelings. It's hard to describe. It's just because I spent a lot of time here, had so many good memories. Whenever I'm driving, even just in and around Sheffield, but especially towards the ground, it's only natural. A lot of memories come back, and just coming back in, it does bring it all back. It is very nice.
Well, let's go right to the start and how you got involved with Sheffield United in the first place. How did all that happen?
Quite interesting, really. Obviously, I was at Man United from being sort of 9 years old, and then got to sort of 16, and they sort of let me go. But I obviously stayed on there, and I was still playing and what have you. And it was Steve Bruce, really. His son Alex, who obviously you'll have heard of, who's played. He was at United as well, and he was playing on the other pitch. And I think one of Paul McGuinness, who was sort of taking me at the time, he spoke to Steve and said, "Look, we're letting this lad go, but we think he might be worth you having a look at." So that's what happened. Steve Bruce obviously spoke to Steve Miles and Russell Slade, who were the youth team guys at the time. Got me over. Played a trial game, and the rest is history.
Indeed. So Steve Bruce was manager here.
He was, yeah.
But he was there watching his son Alex play.
Right, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Right, interesting. So it's kind of a sliding doors moment in some respects. The fact that he was there that day and you managed to catch his eye.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I don't even know whether Steve Bruce was watching me specifically or he was just going off the recommendation of Paul. Right. But nonetheless, I ended up coming across, I can't remember who my trial game was against. I think it was against Huddersfield, actually, which is quite strange. But
because you're at Huddersfield at the moment, just for anybody that didn't know.
Yeah. That's correct. So I played the trial game, and then they asked me to come down, and I signed. The only thing that didn't go too great is the fact that Steve Bruce actually left that summer. Yeah. He left that summer, and then Adrian Heath came in.
So how quick was the ascension for you into the first team?
Looking back now, it was quite quick. Obviously, I'm working with younger players at the minute, and sometimes I do look at them and I think I was sort of playing now. Yeah. And I look at them and I think they look very young to be going in and playing, but just was the situation at the time. But it was fantastic. I think I made my debut at the end of my second year, sort of apprentice. I'd just turned 18. I'd been with the squad and travelled to a few games, but I remember starting away at Bolton, the last game of the season. But my debut was at home here against Wimbledon, as they were back then. Yeah,
and can you remember your emotions, your feelings when you were told, "Look, you're going to be involved with the first team"?
Yeah, I was excited, but I think the way I viewed it, it was just part of. By then, I'd sort of got used to the routine of coming in and playing, and I trained with the reserves and played with those players. And I think now it's a bit different from back then. I think back then you had more integration with the first team players because you were cleaning the boots, so you'd see them all the time.
So whose boots were you cleaning?
I cleaned Jonathan Hunt's. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Him for a little while. And I can't remember who I was cleaning it. Rob Ullathorne.
Right.
Rob Ullathorne.
Did they look after you?
Yeah, they did, to be fair.
That?
They did, to be fair.
Good.
Fair play to them. But yeah, I was ready to go up and play. Obviously, you're always a little bit wary and what have you. But I think the biggest fear or the thing you're trying to do the most when you step up into the first team is you're trying to earn their respect, so you feel like they're not looking at you going, "What's he doing here?"
Yeah.
And I think once you train a couple of times, you know yourself in football. You think, am I at the level to be able to do this? And obviously, I worked out that I was. Obviously, you're still young and learning it, but you think, right, I can compete with them. But it was really good. Really something that, especially at the end of that season, I was like, what a fantastic way to finish the year.
Somebody told me earlier that when you made your debut, you didn't actually realise you were going to be playing that day. Is that true?
Yeah, it is actually. Obviously, like I said, it was here against Wimbledon, and back then, obviously, I was just coming into the team, or into the squad, should I say. I hadn't played yet, so I'd been training with the first team. But then nobody really, the squads were smaller, so nobody put a sheet up with everyone's name on. So I'm very much like, well, unless somebody tells me, I'm not just going to roll up at Bramall Lane as if
right too.
I'm here in the squad. So that on the Tuesday, I just went and trained with the youth team, or wherever it was, full session. I think we actually ran afterwards, and I was on the top of Ecclesall Road, just getting some sweets, I think, actually, getting ready for the game. And Ron Reid, the youth team manager, rang me and went, "Oh, Michael, where are you?" I said, "Oh, I'm just on my way down to the game now," because I'm thinking he's going, "Oh, this needs doing, the lads need to get down here," because I was the captain at the time. And he was like, "You're on the bench." And I thought, "Oh, well, I didn't know, nobody told me." He went, "Don't worry about that, just get down here." And then obviously I ended up coming on. So it was a little bit of it was probably good, really, because I had no time to get nervous.
I was going to say, and what did you do with the sweets? Did you put them back on the shelf, or did they still go with you?
They stayed with me. I had them after. But, no, it was fantastic, really. I wasn't aware that I was going to be involved. I'm trying to think back whether or not my dad actually came to the game, or he missed it, because I wouldn't have told him, because I didn't think I was
and presumably he was in Manchester, was he?
Yeah, he would have been. Yeah.
So that drive to the ground must have been a bit of a blur. I mean, your heart must have been pumping a little bit, driving from Ecclesall Road down to the ground, thinking, I'm on the bench here.
I'm just trying to remember whether I got a lift. I was on the bus, because I weren't driving.
Oh, right, you weren't driving?
No, I weren't driving at the time. So unless one of my mates come pick me up and drop me off, I'd have been on the bus. So.
Flipping heck.
Yeah.
And you came on to replace Darren Bullock?
That's right, yeah. I don't know what the score was. I think did we lose 1-0 the game, or was it 1-1? I can't remember. I remember.
I don't have it here.
I came on for Darren Bullock, I remember that.
Do you remember who else was in the team that day?
Yeah, I do actually, because I remember coming on and thinking, just pass it to Dev, otherwise he'll be going mental. Paul Devlin on the right wing. So, yeah, I just tried to keep it simple. And it wasn't, I don't think, the most difficult game to come on in, because it was towards the end of the season. I don't think either team really had anything to play for, and I just managed to get a few touches early. Once I'd made a few passes, I was fine. Yeah.
So that team then, if I asked you to name it, how many do you think you could get? Out of the 11, say, that started. We know Darren Bullock started because you replaced him.
Yeah.
What about the other 10? How many of those could you get?
Well, Paul Devlin.
Yeah. I'm going to have to take these off, aren't I? Yeah. In goal?
Trace? No,
it's a tricky one.
No, I know it is in goal. I know exactly it is in Frank Talia.
Frank Talia, yeah.
The reason I know that is because I used to have to warm him up.
You had to warm him up?
Yeah, because we didn't used to have, obviously Neil didn't used to have a sub-keeper on the bench.
No, of course.
And Trace was injured, and that's why I knew that he was on the bench.
Right, okay.
He always used to be shouting, "You need to come out and warm me up, I need to get ready." So yeah, Frank Talia. I'm going to go Cozzy.
Yes.
Cozzy must have been playing. Rob Ullathorne?
Rob Ullathorne. No.
Murph?
Yes.
Had to be playing. Just Bobby Ford?
Bobby Ford, yes.
DeJaffo?
No.
George Santos?
George Santos. No.
Oh, who else would have been playing up front then? I can't think who'd be playing up front. The back lads. Cozzy right back maybe. Murph. I don't think Pagey was it. Sandy? Lee Sanford?
No, but playing at the back was a legend of football, played for Man City.
At the back?
Yeah.
Andy Morrison?
Andy Morrison was on the bench.
Was he?
Yes.
Keith Curl?
Keith Curl, yeah.
Was Curly playing at the centre half? Yeah.
I think he was, yeah.
I can't think who'd been left back. I don't know who that
You've
was.
got Gus Uhlenbeek.
Oh, Gus Uhlenbeek, yeah, Cosy must have been left back.
Yeah. Up front, you've got someone who's a friend of this particular show, who features quite regularly. Sabs.
I was going to say it was Sabs here by then.
Yeah.
And then one more up front.
You got another striker.
Sabs. Jaffa was here. It wasn't Sufo, was it?
It was Sufo, and there's one more.
Midfield player. No.
Winger.
Winger. Nubby.
Yeah. Tricky. Yes. Peter Unlove. You've got him.
No, Bobby Ford must have been playing.
Bobby Ford was in there.
He must have been playing centre down bullet.
Yeah, and the subs, Andy Morrison, you got James Thomas.
Yeah, left-footed.
Yeah, David Kelly, you and Monty.
Oh, David Kelly was on there, was he?
Yeah. Some names there, eh?
I know, yeah. I've had a couple of them as coaches.
Have you?
Yeah.
Sheffield United's podcast is sponsored by NordVPN, who are offering Blades fans a significant discount. Follow the link in the description and use the code THEBLADES to get up to 70% off your NordVPN plan, plus 1 additional month for free. Well, there you are. There you are. You had some great times here, as I mentioned at the top. You know, that memorable season we all know about, the triple assault. I want to talk to you about that because, you know, having covered Sheffield United for as long as I have, that is a season that forever stands out for me as one where you just never knew when you were beat. And the nights down here, it's funny because the lights are coming on. Yeah. And some of those cup games were just incredible memories that I'll cherish for a long, long time. The comeback victories and getting to the 2 cup semi-finals, you against Liverpool, and playoff final, which we'll touch on in a minute, and obviously Arsenal in the FA Cup semi-final. There was something about that team, like a band of brothers, which sounds cheesy, but it really seemed to be that, didn't it? There was something special about that group. What was it?
It's really difficult, I think, to put your finger on. I think it was really a real mix of different characters, personalities that you probably wouldn't really necessarily put together. Some young lads, some lads who were in the middle of the career,
and some towards the end,
and some towards the end. That's what I think. No, it was very, very different throughout, and I think it's just, you can never underestimate, I don't think, in football, sort of having good lads and good people, because it just takes you a long way. And I think that's what it was. And I think everyone who was in the squad had something that they were really playing for, a real drive, whether it was trying to make your name, or you were coming to, I don't know, early 30s and you thought, right, I need to keep and stay with this because it was a great opportunity, or lads who've come from perhaps bigger places and they need to rebuild the career. And I think it was just a real mix, and I think more so than anything, I think it was the character of the players. It was a fantastic group. Was there anybody that you were particularly close to, hung out a lot with? Yeah, obviously I was living with Jags at the time, so seeing him a lot. Yeah, we used to live up in out towards the M1. Can't think what it's called now. Can't think what the place is called, but we used to live out that way, so we used to see a lot of each other. Obviously Mont, he lived on the same estate around the corner. Who else did we see a lot of? We used to be honest, I think we had so many games that season. We did used to see a lot of each other. Paddy, you used to see him quite a bit knocking about. Stuart McCall, randomly, sometimes, somehow, I don't know how, we end up giving him lifts in all the time, meeting him at the motorway. Chief got on great. To be honest, all the young lads got on really well with the older lads. Yeah. And I think that was something that really helped. So, was it easy to switch off then from playing out here when you're kind of under each other's noses all the time? Yeah. Or did you not want to switch off? Were you just all about football back then? I think for myself personally, it was my first. I'd played the season before, but I wasn't playing for the whole season. So it was my first taste of starting to have a little bit of success, whereas we were winning games and we were up towards the top of the league. Yeah. And I think the fact that we just seemed to. We didn't actually start the season particularly great. I mean, I can remember playing a game here, and the crowd were getting a little bit nervous and a little bit moany, even the first couple of games. But then I think we went away and we beat Burnley, and then after that we just never looked back. We beat Millwall. We went away to Norwich, battered Norwich. We could have beaten Norwich, who were one of the favourites for the league, 5-0. We were 3-0 up, and we had chance after chance in the first half. Ended up 3-2. I think Iffy got sent off, which made it look like it was a close game. It wasn't. And I think, for me anyway, when we played that game, I think everyone sort of thought we are actually pretty decent. Like we've got a chance of doing well this year. And like you say, the cup games, everything just grew from that and snowballed, I think.
It was you and Michael Brown. I mean, that was the dream duo, really. In midfield, wasn't it?
Yeah, me and Brownie had a.
I can't think of many better midfield partnerships. Certainly, my time watching United, I think
really?
you have to look back and appreciate how good you two were together. You complemented each other really well, I thought. Yeah,
I think. I mean, that particular season, I actually played on the left side quite a bit, but now it would have probably fitted quite well, because a lot of the time it was myself on the left with Stuart McCall and Brownie.
Yeah,
like a 3.
But it dovetailed so well, didn't it?
Yeah, because we had Peter and Love on the other side, and obviously 2 strikers, so we ended up pushing up. But yeah, Brownie was fantastic. He was really, really good with me, to be honest, when I first came into the team. Sort of looked after me, and because he was a bit younger, he helped me along the way. Obviously, he's not from Manchester, but he was living in Manchester, and he was good with the young lads in some ways, and then obviously he was trying to take the what out of me in other ways. But yeah, we had a real good understanding, and it worked really well that year for us.
The Liverpool game down here, stunning game to cover. Fell behind, as I recall.
Yeah.
Neil Mellor.
Yeah.
And then you popped up with a couple of goals. What do you remember about the 2 goals? Huge night that, and at the time you were being talked about and linked with some huge clubs. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I do remember. I remember the game. Obviously, I remember us drawing Liverpool, because I think did we beat Sunderland or Palace?
Palace.
But Sunderland before.
Yeah.
We beat Palace, and I remember us getting Liverpool, and I was thinking, this is a really big one now, because it's sort of Liverpool's like a real top Premier League team. But when you're in it, you don't have time, or you don't step back and go, this is brilliant. You just don't think, because you're just bouncing from one game to the next to the next. But I just remember, obviously, midweek game, atmosphere was fantastic. And actually, in the game itself, I was really struggling to get into the game. I was trying to get on the ball all the time, and I just couldn't get on it. I was actually getting quite frustrated. I didn't really touch it much in the first half. I wanted to, but it just wasn't coming to me. And sometimes when you play wide, that can happen. But then second half, I think the gaffer, he changed the formation slightly, because I think we were playing 4-4-2 first half. Sabs was up top with, I think he was playing up top with, but we were playing 2 up front, and then I think at half time, I think he changed it. He took one of them off, and I think he brought Monty on, and we went 4-3-3, and I ended up being higher up, because I went as left side up front, and I think that's how I ended up scoring. I remember Paddy hit a long free kick. Chief went up for the header with whoever, and it sort of was bouncing between me and Carragher, and we were both sprinting in, but then I thought, I'm not getting there, and then he's gone to clear it, and he's like miscued it, and he went straight to Stuart McCall, who, in fairness to him, and if he ever sees this, he'll probably appreciate it. It was a fantastic pass from him, first time, right in my path. I didn't really have to, and I just glanced up, and Kirkland was coming out. It's quite big, so I just head over it and just struck it left foot, and then obviously it was in, and then it was a bit of a blank from there, because obviously the celebrations, everyone was going mental, and it was fantastic. But in the time when you're scoring, everything seems to go really quiet for a split second, and then obviously we're back in it then, and then obviously the crowd was with us, which was fantastic. And I think the other guy, I can't remember what happened between the first goal and the second goal, but I just remember feeling like it wasn't that long, It didn't feel that long. I know it wasn't that long now, but and I think Chief put Nuddy down the right hand side, and he flew down, and the guys tackled him. It's gone out for a corner, and in those type of games, even when you get a corner, it's like everyone's like edge of the seat. And I think Wayne Quinn, he crossed it in, and I just remember the thing whenever I've seen that goal back that always baffles me is why Brownie was attacking the corner. Because I don't know why he was one of the smallest players, why he was attacking it with, I think he was attacking it with Jaggy and Sean Murphy.
Yeah.
And they sort of charged in, stopped them from winning the ball, and I think Honcho sort of again tried to clear it, but really poor clearance to the edge of the box. And I don't know what Liverpool's set was, but they only had Carragher on the edge, and there was two of us. And I can remember the ball coming out, saying, "Oh, just hit it." And then I seen him coming, and I thought he'll just block it. So I sort of took a touch, and again there was bodies, so I just struck it, and obviously it's gone through and bottom corner, and then obviously the stadium erupts again, and it was like a little bit pandemonium then.
Is that your best moment here?
I think so. Yeah, there's been some fantastic games,
and I say here because there's something else that obviously I'm going to talk to you about, and you know what that'll be. That came a few years later. But in terms of moments you had here,
I think with scoring two goals, I think as far as goals go, it's probably not my best goal that I've scored here. But moments and for personal anyway, because that season there was some unbelievable moments as a team here.
Definitely,
without a doubt.
And obviously there was the FA Cup semi-final that we've discussed quite a bit on this podcast, and Pesh's header, Seaman clawing it out and all that kind of stuff, and Neil saying the best player on the pitch was the referee. We've kind of done all of that, so that was disappointing. But what came at the end was especially so because I was in my role at Radio Sheffield at the time, and I'd never felt so confident about a team going into the playoff final than I did that year. When you remember all the previous disappointments, never won one, and the momentum you had that season, that kind of never say die spirit. And then we get to Cardiff, and it's just a massive, well, for want of a better phrase, flop.
It was.
Which was soul destroying, really, because I knew how hard as a group you'd worked to get there. And then just to lose it in that manner, it just seemed to be all over in the blink of an eye, didn't it? Yeah,
really, really strange game. When I think back, I can't really remember that much of the game, because I remember
Mark Kennedy scoring and being 2-0 down at half time. Brownie, I think, got one back. Did he in the second half?
No, he missed a penalty.
Missed a penalty,
And
should have got one back.
Yeah, it was one of those games where everyone was obviously really up for it, and I think everyone had a lot of confidence because we'd had such a good season. Like, it was almost like whatever they do, we'll better it.
Yeah.
And I think even when they scored, to be honest, at the start, it wasn't a panic in the sense of, oh, we're not going to get back into this. But we just couldn't get going in the game. We just couldn't get going at all. And to be fair to Wolves, looking back, they had a good team. They had an experienced team. I think that's what, because I remember I was playing against Dennis Irwin. Which, when I look back, I'm like, that's mental. And they had Paul Ince playing in the middle of midfield. Can't remember whether Alex Ray played. They had Colin Cameron, Nathan Blake up top, Mark Kennedy. They had a whole. I think Lescott played.
He will have done, he'll have been in that team.
The other big guy was at Leeds, centre out, Butler. They did have a good team.
Carl Court, would he have played?
He might have been involved in it. Matt Murray in goal. When you start to name them, you go, they did have a good team, but not that we ever took it lightly, because we knew they were a good side. When I look back, I just felt that it wasn't necessarily us not performing. I just felt it was Wolves' year, because they'd gone close. And sometimes when you're not quite expected to, or feel you're the favourite, it happens for you. But it was just a massive disappointment. It was really, really difficult to take after. You could. It wasn't a case where you went, yeah, but look how good the season was. For me, it wasn't like that. It was like a proper anticlimax of the season.
It was, but we've in some respects jumped a step, because the game before that was just was just, and it's to this day,
Yeah.
it's the best game, without question, that I've ever been at.
Really?
And I was at the England World Cup semi-final in 2018 in Russia, which was fabulous.
Wow.
But to be part of that,
Yeah.
covering that game, because it had everything, didn't it, against Forest?
Yeah.
I thought you were done. At half-time,
Yeah.
perhaps every single person on the ground felt the same.
Yeah.
This is over, Forest are going. I remember the local radio guys from BBC Nottingham, who I get on really well with, kind of leaping about. I was really envious because I thought they're going to cover the playoff final, they're going to Cardiff, which is a great experience in itself. And then it all turned, and we know what happened after that. I mean, is that the best game that you've ever played in?
I think it's probably the most emotional game, in the sense of feeling like we've thrown it away. Because I think the first goal, John Curtis, he's gone to clear it or whatever, and David Johnson, good finish to be fair.
Yeah.
And then it was like, because the place was buzzing before the game, buzzing, and you really felt that, and you felt like we've got to do it here. And then, did he score? No, he scored second half, Andy Reid, didn't he?
Yeah.
To make it 2-0. I remember it very well because I was playing on the left and Forest sort of played a diamond, so I was tucked in, and sometimes I was in with their midfield player, and sometimes it's difficult when that happens to sort of transition between having the midfield player and getting the full back. And Louis Jean was wide and someone played him in. I remember thinking, I'm not getting there. And I looked at Cozzy, he was playing left back, and I thought, he's not getting there either. And I thought, he's going to stand this up, and then he stood it up. And obviously Andy Reid come in, he's a very good player, he was a very good player, scored 2-0, and you're thinking, and they're going mental behind the goal, you think, oh, we've got it all to do here. But then the most important part about that night was, and I don't know how we did it from the kick-off, but we managed to get a free kick on the edge of the box straight away. And I don't, because even when I've watched it back, I've not seen how we got to the edge of the box, because they're still doing the replay from the Forest goal.
Yeah.
When I watched it back. And I remember watching back thinking, yeah, we did well because we got back in it straight away. And as soon as it went to 2-1, the momentum completely changed. It was almost, the fact that we got back to 2-1, it was almost worse for Forest. They'd have been better to just stay at 1-0 rather than us score. And it'd be, and obviously the deficit's still 1 goal.
Yeah.
But the fact that we got back in it was like, you then, because of how the games had gone here all through the season, it was like you always felt like we were going to get back into the game. And Cabs, and really the score, that was the sort of the way the season went. Somebody had come on and just do something, and that's what happened, because I think Dean Windass had gone off, I think Saabs might have gone off, Chief and Cabs came on.
Chief always came on. That was like a running joke. We always used to look down with him about 5 minutes to go. There he is, he's ready for action.
And what I always thought was brilliant about Chief is even when he went up for an header, if he didn't win it, he just somehow managed to stop the centre half from winning it.
Yeah.
So if you're a striker like Cabs who's quick, you'd just be thinking, I know it's going in behind. And obviously Cabs went in behind, unbelievable goal. And then as soon as it went to 2-2, I was thinking, right, you never feel like, oh, you're home and dry. I didn't feel like that, but you felt like everything's with us, like they were. It killed them. It killed them 2-2. And I remember speaking to Cabs after the game, and he was like, I don't even remember his celebration. He was sort of blowing kisses to their bench.
That's it.
He was blowing it to their bench because they'd been giving it a few verbals, I think, to our bench when they were 2-0 up or when they scored the second goal. So he was going over, not to Paul Hart, to the assistant. It might have been Gary Bowie or someone.
Right.
It might have been him. So he was doing that to him, and then went to extra time then, didn't it? And then obviously Pesh had come on as well. I don't know who he come on for, because we had Cabs, Chief and Pesh on. So we must have been pretty attacking, because I was still on. Brownie, and maybe Peter and Love went off. I can't remember.
So it feels like it is a long time
because that's what Neil was so good at that season. Like, it was almost like when we got back into it, he didn't sort of go, let's just it was like, let's go for it.
Go for the throat.
So we had 3 forwards on. Yeah. Cabs, Pesh, Chief. So it must have been me, Brownie and Ranks on in midfield, just sort of trying to shuffle across. But yeah, and obviously you forget really about the next 2 goals, because own goal from Des Walker.
Yeah,
And
I remember Gary
scored-
Sinclair on the stadium announcer saying goal scorer for Sheffield United, Des Walker, and big cheer going up. I remember that. It's funny, the little things you remember.
Yeah.
And obviously the Pesh thing.
Yeah.
You know,
that was
oh my God.
Yeah.
Just, that'll live with me forever, and him. And I bet he gets reminded of it all the time, wherever he goes. But great memories.
Yeah.
Great season.
To be fair, Pesh, thinking back about that season, I always felt for him a little bit in the season because he started off, he couldn't really get going, but then he was always doing really well, but he couldn't get to where he was starting all the time. But he was a perfect example of why we did so well, because someone who wasn't quite getting in, he always still had that drive because he wanted to get in and wanted to impact it, and he did on numerous occasions. He did it against Palace as well in one of the other games.
Best goal you've ever scored? We've mentioned the Liverpool one. Best goal you scored for United? What would you pick out? I remember West Ham. There's a goal against West Ham.
Free kick here.
Yeah, that was a belter.
Scored a good free kick here against Cardiff at that end. Similar type of goal to against West Ham. Obviously Sheffield Wednesday, free kick. I'm trying to think of some others. The first one was good.
Yeah.
Not as in spectacular, but for me, against Crewe.
2001.
I know.
2001.
I know.
We're now in 2021.
I know.
It's frightening. No wonder we struggle to remember certain names and players and coaches and all that. It's 20 years ago.
I know. Somebody asked me that the other day. Actually.
We're now in 2022, aren't we?
Yeah.
See, told you, it's a memory thing. We're in 2022, so it's 21 years ago.
I know. It's mad. I think probably that Sheffield Wednesday goal was, or like you say, Liverpool. But
It's almost like we rehearsed it, because I wanted to talk to you about the Wednesday goal at Hillsborough. This celebration, remember that?
Yeah.
Cop end as well.
I know. Sometimes I was thinking, I don't know if I wish I'd scored at the other end in front of our fans.
You can't get too greedy, mate.
No, I know.
You can't get too greedy.
I know. It's that was a good day, because I think, if I remember rightly, we'd just been away at Norwich, and we lost, and we're having a bit of a sticky patch. As in, we'd been at the top of the league and we'd been doing well that year, of course, but we'd lost a couple. But we played Norwich, and again, we should have beaten Norwich. I don't know how they beat us 1-0. It was, and then I remember the manager saying, the gaffer on the way back from Norwich. I always remember this. He came down the back of the bus and he sort of put his arm around me and went, "You're gonna have to go on the left again." And I was thinking, because someone had got injured, and I'd been playing in the middle, and I'd been feeling really good. And I was actually doing quite well. I was doing well in the middle because I hadn't been playing at the start of that season. I was doing really well. I remember him saying, "You're gonna have to go back on the left again." So I thought, all right, fair enough. But it was a derby game, so I didn't really mind, because I thought, I want to play. But again, we started the game well against Sheffield Wednesday. I think we had Neil Collins.
Yeah.
Obviously, he came back to the league, didn't he? He was on loan. I remember, that's one thing I remember. He played in that game.
Wasn't that like a last-minute signing?
Yeah.
Because, forgive me, these games do blur a little bit into other games. But again, I covered that game.
Yeah.
And then I seem to remember getting the team sheet.
Yeah.
Neil Collins, when was that done? It was literally last minute.
It was last minute.
And he was thrown straight in.
Yeah, and he did really well, because
he did do well.
Nobody really knew him that well, because he was young.
Yeah.
And he come in. I remember he played centre half in Morse, because Morse was struggling that day as well. But I just remember the thinking, we need to win. Like, we need not obviously it's a derby. Obviously we need to win, but we need the 3 points.
Were you good with pressure, by the way?
With those derby games, I used to like them, because obviously it's a big game, you're playing against Sheffield Wednesday. But I always felt like it got my focus more in the bigger games. Not that you're not. It just does. It did for me. And obviously that game, when I was looking at it before, I'm thinking, we should win this, because they didn't have a great side. But then I'd played against Wednesday before, and we had a better team, and we'd been playing, not necessarily a better team, but we were playing better than them. And then, like a derby game, sometimes just pull the performance out.
Yeah. One
of my first derbies was a bit like that. But we obviously, I was on the left hand side in that game. I can't remember who got fouled. At the Chris Armstrong stretch, he went down, shot back, and got fouled on that side of the box. And it's strange, because sometimes something happens and you just think, right, well, I'll do that again. And in training before that Sheffield Wednesday game, we were training up at Shirecliffe, and it was that time of year just after Christmas. It was boggy and what have you, and we were doing like the set pieces before the game, and I remember the corner was like ridiculously boggy. So I remember the gaffer just saying, "Oh, just bring it out there onto the grass." And I can remember, I don't know if it was for the corners or whatever, but I can remember just from that position thinking, "Oh, I could probably score it." Not in the, and I hit it, and it flew in on the far stick. And this was sort of only a few days before the game. So when we got the free kick, everyone sort of lines up, don't they, level with the wall.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, if I just do that again, shoot and hit it as hard as I can across there, there's space, the keeper won't come because it'll be coming too fast, and anyone who makes a run across will nick it and it'll go in. So I just thought, just shoot, and that's why I shot, because really, normally I wouldn't have shot from there, but it was only because a couple of days before, just out of pure luck, that I'd hit one and caught it flush and it had gone in. I thought, I'll do that again, and thankfully it did.
It was a good decision.
Yeah, it was. And I think, in fairness, Addy scored a fantastic goal.
It was a brilliant goal, yeah.
He scored a great goal that day. And again, another game, we should have won probably about 3-4-0. Addy missed a header. I don't know how he missed it in the second half, and that would have been sort of game over.
We've got to move on to the promotion to the Premier League.
Yeah.
Goes without saying, that must have been something really special to be able to achieve that with this club.
Yeah, it was, and I think that season was, I think it was almost like from the manager, myself, I hadn't been probably great and at the top of my game for maybe 12 months. I had a little bit of I don't know if I had a dip, but I sort of stagnated a bit for a year. I wasn't at it. I wasn't doing enough. And then sort of at the beginning of the season, we went over to China.
I've heard about the China trip a few times.
That was horrendous.
Yeah,
but
that pretty much sums it up.
But it did bring everyone together, and the manager had brought some players in, and he had a real sort of bit between his teeth as like, we're doing this, and I don't care. And I started the season, and again I wasn't doing great, and then Neil took me out of the team, and it was the best thing that he could have done for me, because it sort of gave me the kick up the backside.
Did you think that at the time?
No, I didn't think it at the time. I was sulking at the time. Of course I was. But it was exactly what I needed. We were away at QPR, and I wasn't involved, and I think he'd been frustrated because I wasn't playing well enough. But from a personal point of view, I got a bit lost because I'd been playing on the left in previous season, but it was sort of a narrow left position. It was a midfield, whereas then I was sort of getting put out as if I was a winger. And I've never been a winger because it's just not I wasn't blessed with great pace, and it just wasn't. I was getting frustrated with playing there, if truth be told. So obviously, I weren't in the team, and I was finding it difficult. And I was going to all the games, and the lads were flying, doing so well, and it was like, what do? There's nothing you can do when they keep winning. And I played a couple of games. I played away at Millwall. We won that game, but it was always a case of where a certain team would be, it was Jags and Monty were playing in the middle, which is where I wanted to then go and play. And on the left, Chris Armstrong was playing, and it was working quite well because Unzi was playing left back, and they were sort of dovetailing because Stretch could play left back at times. And then it was only after, I think it was around Christmas, I played away at Hull. I'm not quite sure why, whether someone got injured. I think Monty might have been injured. I played away at Hull, played well, won the game, and then I was in then for the rest of the season. But it was fantastic. Even that year, towards the end of the season, there was some games where I'm like, I can remember that Hull game here. That was nail biting. That was fantastic. Who else did we play? Obviously, we had Sheffield Wednesday away. Who else did we play down here? Because it was all leading up, because we had Leeds, didn't we?
Yes.
And they were chasing us, and it was looking like it was going to be a real. Whoever wins the game down here will probably go up. Thankfully, it never really got to that. But we had some fantastic performances that year. Again, we had a real good group of older players who'd sort of been there and done it. David Unsworth, Craig Short, and even lads who came in like Gary Flitcroft. He didn't really play that much, but
in terms of influence,
he was good, really good around the place. Really encouraged anyone who was playing to, and that's what you need. And obviously we got over the line around Easter time, wasn't it? Yeah. We won away at Cardiff. I can't remember who we played on the. You normally play twice over Easter, don't you? I can't remember who we played before.
Well, yeah, because it was Cardiff on the Good Friday, wasn't it? And then you had Danny Webber.
Yeah.
And then you had to wait for was it Leeds Reading result on the Saturday, I think? Because Phil Jagielka came in with somebody else into our studios at the time, which was great. And obviously, was it a draw between Leeds and Reading? I can't remember. Yeah,
I think it might have been a draw.
So then it was done, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then we were up then.
And then obviously in the Premier League, I just seem to remember you being comfortably clear of the bottom three at Christmas.
Yeah.
And then for whatever reason, it unravelled. And I don't expect you to comment on this, but Neil seemed to start playing some really odd formations at times to me. And I said this at the time on the radio, so it's nothing new.
Yeah.
But I just thought, why is he playing him there and him there? I remember a game at Aston Villa where we got the starting 11. I'm thinking, what is he doing here? He obviously had his methods. He lost his rag with me at West Ham because he played one up front, and I said, would you not be better playing two up front? And I remember him saying, I'll just play four up front next game then, shall I? Which was quite funny because that was Neil, and we had that kind of relationship.
Yeah.
I remember going to Watford, winning at Watford on a Tuesday night under the lights. That seemed to be quite a significant win at the time.
Yeah.
Do you look back on that season with fondness? Obviously, you're having the opportunity to test yourself against the very best, but obviously compounded by the disappointment, the incredible disappointment at the end.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Obviously we went up, and then obviously we started the season. I was like thinking, this is brilliant, and then I had a massive blow really. I got injured. I'd done my ankle against Chelsea here, ruptured the ligament, and I was out for like 9 weeks, and I was like, we've just got up and I'm missing now for over 2. I didn't know it was going to be 9 weeks at the time, I'm thinking, and it was quite bad.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, this is horrendous. I can't believe it, because I'm watching the lads. And I remember that Watford game, because I remember I watched it on TV, and then we went to Newcastle. That was another one I missed.
Monty?
Yeah, Monty scored.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Danny Webber scored as well, I'm not sure. Or he was involved in the goal.
He crossed it for Monty, I think. Yeah.
But yeah, it was the main thing I can remember about that season is the fact when we played West Ham here, we went 10 points clear of them. And even now, I probably need to look back on the fixtures, because I can't work out where they clawed the points back and how they managed to do it, because even after West Ham, we beat Watford here.
Yeah.
'Cause I remember I scored in that game, and I'm thinking that was like April. So I'm thinking, how did they do it? And I don't know. Sometimes when things like that happen, I have to look back and just think it was just something. It was fate. It was just meant to be, because you just couldn't write that.
No.
That would happen again. We went down by a goal.
Don't.
Which is like that. I try not to talk about it because it does my head in. But
and the fact it was David Unsworth that scored for Wigan here, who'd been here the previous season. It's like what is going on? It was just a mad game, wasn't it? A mad day all round, and obviously we're getting the score updates from Old Trafford, Tevez, and all.
Well, that was it. But I think it's like if there was one team, because I'm a City fan, if there was one team at that time where you'd be like, I'd back them to be, or you'd want them to play a team, I'd have picked United. And West Ham went to Old Trafford and won. And in them days, that just didn't happen.
No, it didn't.
So
it definitely didn't.
Yeah, it was painful, that.
Running out of time, but when the day came to leave here, how difficult was that? Because I read about that, and I think you quoted as saying that you didn't want to go when Kevin Blackwell was here.
Yeah.
So what happened there?
Really difficult, to be honest, Paul, because it was sort of the last day of the transfer window. I'd no inclination that anything was happening or anything like that, and I got a call. It was late. It was like about 10, and it was shooting at 12, saying, Stoke have made a bid. You need to come down to the ground. And I should have clicked on really then, because I can't remember who it was who rang me at the time. They said, go to Stoke. And now when I think back, I'm thinking, right, so them telling me to go to Stoke, to that ground, was them saying, that was sort of an inclination of, you're going.
Yeah.
And it was that, and I went, no, I'll just go to Sheffield. But I was in Manchester at the time, because it was Tuesday night and we had Wednesday off, and I'd gone back to Manchester. But I went, no, so I drove across here, and I thought, I'll just come in and speak to Blackie, and I think it was Sam Ellis, and see what the situation is. But then I went in, and said, Stoke have come in for you. I was like, right. And they were saying, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I hadn't really thought about it, and I was thinking, I don't know if Stoke will. They've only just gone up. It's going to be a tough season for them. But then I said to Blackie, I said, well, what do you want me to do? I sort of put it back at him, and he went, well, I've been told I don't want you to go, but I've been told not to persuade you to stay. So when he said that, obviously I didn't want to leave Sheffield. I loved it here. But when someone's turning around and saying that, the manager's turning around and saying, well, we don't really want you here. Or not that he doesn't want me here, but the club don't really want me here. They wanted to obviously take the money, the cash for the transfer. I was a bit like, right, well, that sort of changes it a bit then, because you go, well, you're staying somewhere where you're not really wanted anymore. And I sort of thought, right, well, it was one of those scenarios where you sort of go, you see your backside a bit about it, where you're right, well, you've said it there. If Blackie had said to me, no, we want you to stay, but we just thought it was right that you knew about the offer. And,
that's fair enough.
And what was on the table, I'd have been right, yeah, fair enough, no problem, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
But then it was like, all right. And obviously I spoke to whoever was representing me at the time, and they said, well, I think it'll be a good opportunity for you. But they obviously knew between the lines of what the situation was. So it was really sad. And I can remember driving away from the ground and like driving back to my flat in Sheffield, because obviously I needed to because I couldn't get my boots, because obviously they were at the training ground and it was pitch black. And I thought, I'm going to need some boots for tomorrow. And I can remember going to the flat, and I was actually in tears, sort of leaving, because I was thinking, that's it. But that's football, isn't it? You go from one day thinking like you'll be there for the rest of your life, and then in a blink of an eye, you're gone. And obviously I went across to Stoke and never really got going there. It was just found it really difficult, because I'd been at Sheffield since I was 16, and I felt like it was like family to me. And then the transition from going into a new environment, they didn't play me a lot straight away, or they didn't really play me straight away, and that made things doubly difficult, because you don't get in the groove of it. If I'd have been playing straight away, I'd have just carried on, but I didn't, and I could never really settle there. And it's sort of in hindsight, sometimes I look back and think, I made the wrong decision. But then I think, well, I didn't really, because the decision was sort of made for me. If I'd have stayed, Sheffield United, of course, that year nearly went up, and they didn't. And then Stoke stayed up, and then within however long, they were in League One, and it seemed to collapse a little bit after that.
Yeah, it took a long time to get back.
Definitely not, because I left. I'm not implying that for 1 minute, but it was sad, because when you've been somewhere for so long, it's hard to leave. And I think, in all honesty, that was the only way I would have left, that it was last minute, because if I'd have had that conversation a week before, I wouldn't have left, because I'd have had time to think about it. But it was almost like, you've sort of laid it out to me there.
Time's almost up, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
We could have done so much more, but as you can probably tell, at the time of recording, this is on a match night. United about to play Blackburn, and we're going to do some TV stuff for the TV channel as well. So that's why it's tight, sadly. One word to sum up your time here.
Phenomenal. Loved it.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, I loved it. When I look back, you like I said, I won't go on, but at the time, like everything in life, you don't appreciate it. You've no time to. But when you look back, that was sort of coming at 16. It was sort of the beginning of me sort of standing on my own 2 feet and just going through it, and all the players, staff, the lads in the youth team that I did it with. It was just brilliant. It really was.
Well, thanks for your time. I'm sorry we've had to cut it short because we could have done a lot longer, but great to see you back.
Yeah, you too.
Top man. Cheers, Tongey.
Cheers, mate.
There you go. That's our latest edition of the One of Our Own podcast with none other than Michael Tonge. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again soon for another one.